AWS Global Infrastructure, and free tier account creation. And I'll be repeating this part again because this is really important. If you want to work in AWS Cloud, if you want to use the services practically, then you need to create a free tier account. You need to create this free tier account. So let me just give an overview of this. Cloud computing, it is the on-demand delivery of resources with pay-as-you-go model. And you are accessing the resources through the internet. Which resources? Your compute resources, databases, storage, networking equipments, then various other applications. Then advantages of AWS, it is pay-as-you-go model, the first one. So you have economies of scale, pay-as-you-go model for cost optimization, then stop guessing capacity. You don't have to maintain and run your data center. So what the crux of this cloud computing is that you don't own the resources. You don't need to purchase the hardware, for example, servers, storage devices. You don't have to purchase these hardwares. In fact, hardware is provided to you by AWS. And those who are new to this session, so my name is Nigat Ansari. I am the Amazon authorized instructor, 3 times AWS certified for cloud practitioner, solution architect associate, and solution architect professional. Then we talked about AWS services overview. So I will be talking about this because we have to cover various services, EC2, S3, and so on. So I talked about various deployment models. So what are the deployment models that we covered yesterday? I just want to revise the topics which we have covered yesterday, only for 5 minutes, a quick revision. So Anand, can you tell me what are the deployment models of cloud, where you are deploying your applications or your resources? No, these are not deployment models. These are your service model. So deployment model is cloud, but you tried. So thank you for responding. So you have cloud, then you have on-premises, or you call it as a private cloud. Then you have hybrid cloud. So cloud means public cloud. Your application is born and deployed in cloud itself. It is tested. Yes, absolutely correct, Ajit. So your application is born and it is tested and it is deployed in cloud. So I told you the example of Swiggy, Netflix, etc., etc. So these are running in cloud. Then on-premises or your private cloud, that it is your own data center. You are running your own data center. You are the owner of the complete hardware. You are managing everything. Then hybrid, you are using both on-premises and cloud. So why you have to use both? Because to avail cloud services, you are using this cloud deployment model. But if you have certain regulations that your data, you cannot upload it on cloud, you cannot upload it, you cannot store it at different locations. So what you are doing, you are storing the data in your own premises, in your own data center. Yes, Nafis, for data security reasons. So you have to use both in this case. So you are using hybrid for this. Then I covered service models, cloud service models. And this is what Anand has answered. So infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and security as a service. So infrastructure as a service, you are getting the infrastructure in the form of software. because everything you are getting in the form of software, virtual resources you are getting through cloud. So here you are getting infrastructure, and infrastructure include what? Infrastructure include your private space, your VPC, your private network, your compute devices. You are getting these in the form of software. And the example of this is a service in AWS, which we call it as EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud. And this we will be going to discuss in today's session. Then platform as a service, this is your, you can say you are getting infrastructure, you are getting compute devices, compute capacity in the form of software, plus you are getting platform to you can say develop your application. So platform you can think of as IDE, integrated development environment, such as Visual Studio Code, you have Sublime, you have Notepad++, where you can actually write and edit your code. So Notepad++ is your text editor. So you are given the complete environment where you can develop your application and you can test and deploy your application through this platform. In AWS, this service which is providing platform to us in the form of software is known as Elastic Beanstalk. So this Elastic Beanstalk is providing us all the things which we can use to create our web application. We can develop our web application in various programming languages. Plus, we can test our application. It is providing us debugger and all the other application software, and we can host our application. So it is providing us application software as well. For example, Apache Server or IIS in Windows. So it is providing us deployment options. So conveniently, we can deploy our applications, web applications, through this Elastic Beanstalk. So actually, it is providing us the platform, the complete environment, which is helpful for us to deploy our web application. Then software as a service, you are using it. You cannot make changes in it. You have the least control. You as the customer has least control over this. For example, if I talk about Gmail, so you can use the Gmail in the way it is given to us. You cannot make your own changes in that. You cannot say that please add this feature because I want this feature. I want to customize your Gmail application. No, the entire application you cannot customize because you don't have complete control on this. The application is belonging, the entire application plus infrastructure plus platform is belonging to the service provider. So here for Amazon, I have an example known as Chime. So it is the communication channel such as Zoom, where you can have video call, you can chat with your friends. So it is like the communication channel. So like Zoom. So it is a software as service. You are using it the way it is given. So customer has complete control over the virtual part, not the hardware part. Over the virtual part of this IIS, so more control of the customer. Then less control because customer is actually controlling only data and application. And software as service, least control of the customer because everything is belonging to the service provider. Then I talked about global infrastructure because if you want to learn AWS, you should know global infrastructure. So AWS global infrastructure means how AWS is operating its data center all around the world. And how these locations where AWS is setting up its data center is actually connected to each other. So we have various components in global infrastructure. The first component is region. Second component is availability zone. Third component is data center. Fourth component is your server. Fifth component is your edge location. And this last two options I will be discussing today. So fifth point, edge location, and sixth point, regional edge cache. So this regional AWS region is actually, I told you, it is a physical location where AWS is setting up its data center. So a physical location is like your house, where you are selecting some of the location in your locality, in your city, where you want to actually do uh, your work, where you want to have the complete control over that location. So this is your house, and you can compare it with your region. It is a physical location. Then your house is divided into multiple rooms. So your multiple rooms are your availability zones, and it is for high availability of your resources, fault tolerance. So rooms you can consider as your availability zones. So why you are having multiple availability zone? Because it is for replicating the data. It is for data redundancy, that whatever data you are storing here, you can make the copy of your data at different locations, so that if any problem is actually making your data getting lost at the first AZ, you can recover your data from other location. So it is making your data highly available, your resources highly available. And I told you these are connected to each other with the help of a very high-speed network, ultra-low latency network, so that data replication is actually faster. Then what is there inside the availability zone? Availability zone are running multiple data centers. So data centers are your cupboard, your furniture, where you are keeping your stuff. So this is your cupboard, and you are running data center in it. And what is inside the data center? Inside the data center, you are running servers. And servers are actually running AWS resources. So inside the data center, you have servers. Servers are running AWS services. If you want to store your data, actually these are getting stored on these servers. If you want to if you want to host a website, then website is hosted on one of the servers. So this was the recap of yesterday's topic. And as a part of global infrastructure, only two topics were left yesterday, which I will be covering now. So edge location and regional edge caching. Is this clear to everyone? Any problem? Any problem in yesterday's topic? Anything you want to ask? Thank you, Shaij. So let us cover our last topic, which is known as our last component of this global infrastructure, and it is the edge location. So how many of you have the understanding of how cache works? So can you please tell me how cache works? Cache memory. So this is your processor. Your processor is actually fetching the instruction and loading the data. Yes, Anand, it is a temporary memory. So this is your main memory. And your processor is actually using your main memory, fetching the instruction from there or storing the intermediate result or the final result in this. So you have fetch and load operation running between your processor and your main memory. But the speed of the main memory is slower as compared to speed of the processor. So what you are doing, you are using a temporary memory, which is known as cache. That instead of going to the main memory, instead of going to the main memory, the processor does what? Processor is actually retrieving the data, frequently access data from the cache. So which one is faster? The first access or the second access? So which one is faster? Second one. So instead of going to the main memory, you are actually retrieving the frequently accessed data from the cache. So the same concept is applied to edge location. So edge location are data centers which are used for caching the content closer to the user. So this is my customer. And suppose my customer is living in Singapore region. And he is trying to access a content in US region. So maybe a video stream, right? So the video stream is stored in US region. So do you think there will be a waiting time? So when this customer is sending the request and getting the response, do you think waiting time will be there? Will there be latency? Will there be latency in this because of the large distance? Right? So if I ask you to pick up an object which is not closer to you, which is kept in some other room, so what you have to do, you have to get up, go to that room, pick up that object, and then come back. So in this case, you have to spend some time in getting up, going to the room, getting the object, and then coming back to your place. So you are actually spending time in going there and coming back. So this time period of round trip, request and response. So this is your latency. So customer face latency. So what we are doing, we are using an intermediate location closer to the user, intermediate memory which is closer to the user, and the cache, the content is copied to that intermediate, you can say, memory. So here we have the customer in Singapore, from Singapore region. This content is from US data center. Now what we are doing, we are having an intermediate data center, intermediate, you can say, location. And these are known as edge location, and it is acting as a cache. So the content from this data center is replicated here. And now the content is closer to the user. And now the user is actually requesting and getting response from this edge location rather than the original, you can say, location. So tell me in which case latency will be less, in which case we have fast delivery of the resource to the customer. So first case or second case? Yes, Venkat Kali Prasad, it is just a copy. So which case we have the fast delivery of the content? In first case or in second case? Thank you, Noman. Hello, Flip. So in second case, we have the fast delivery of the resources, because if I tell you to just pick up an object nearby you, maybe your pen, maybe your notebook. Yes, Anand, I'm just doing that. So you can just imagine that you are sitting in your room and I'm asking you, this is second room, right? This is another room. And if I'm asking you to please, just a moment. If I'm asking you to get the content from the second room, right? This is another room. So you have to get up, go to the room, and then come back to your place. So this is actually taking a lot of time of yours. But if I ask you to please pick up some object which is nearby you, maybe your pen, your notebook, right? Your laptop, I am asking you to touch it. So this object is actually present in the same room in which you are, and it is closer to you. So which case will be you? In which case you will be taking less time to pick up the object? First case or second case? Anand. Second case. So what we are doing? This is the video content stored originally at US data center. So the customer is from Singapore. I don't want customer to just send the request to my original data center because of latency. So what I'm doing, I'm keeping a copy of this video at the location at the data center, which is near to the customer. And now the customer is accessing the video content from this edge location, not from the data center. Thank you, Carly. So edge location are acting as a cache, that this is your processor, this is your main memory, and edge location are the cache. So frequently access data is cached to the edge location, which is near to the user, and the customer is accessing the content from nearby location, just delivering the content fast. So frequently accessed data is stored here. You have another tier of cache, and which is known as regional edge cache. So what is this regional edge cache? So it is also a cache, but it is storing infrequently accessed data. So you can think of that this is your customer, this is your edge location, and it is containing frequently accessed data. Then infrequently accessed data. So this is your regional edge cache. It contains infrequently accessed data, but it is also a cache. And then you have the original location, your region or the data center. It is the original location. So, Anand, we have AWS has more than 410 plus this edge location spread all across globe, closer to various regions, and we are actually using these edge location which is spread across the globe. So it is at the back end that AWS is actually selecting. We as the customer are not selecting the edge location. The edge location are selected by AWS services at the back end, and they are deciding that which location is closer to the user, and then caching the content with this edge location. So you are not using these edge location, this cache alone. They are used in conjunction with some services. And those services are automatically keeping track of the locations closer to the customer. So you can see that initially customer was accessing the data from the original region, but now he is actually accessing the data from a location nearby to him, and it is containing frequently accessed data. For the data which is infrequently accessed, it is stored in another tier of cache, and it is known as regional edge cache. It is actually, you can say, having a better performance than the original location, but it is a little bit slower than edge locations. But you don't, if for infrequently accessed data, you don't have to go to the main memory again. You can access the data from this regional edge cache. And these are making your content present closer to you. So we are calling these as point of presence. So edge location and regional edge cache are known as points of presence. Means these locations are closer to you, and these locations are actually presenting your data, delivering your data or your resources closer to the customer. I hope this is clear to everyone. Jiten, Babita, Shaiju, Farhan. Thank you, Carly. So that marks the end of my global infrastructure. And why? Yes, Pankaj, if you are using the services which are using edge location, for example, let me just talk about a service which is known as CloudFront. So CloudFront is a service which is delivering the content to the user. You can think of CloudFront was actually acting as a postman in earlier days. So this is your post office, and you are the customer. So you are not going to the post office or the courier office to pick up your parcel or to pick up your letter. No, you have a postman, you have a courier service delivery boy. So that delivery boy is doing what? Delivery boy is taking your parcel and delivering the parcel closer to you at your doorstep. So this is actually the work of CloudFront. So the content which is present at some location. So CloudFront is making the copy of that content and placing it in nearby edge location. This is the work of CloudFront. And the customer are now accessing the content from this edge location. So this replication is done by CloudFront. So whenever you are using CloudFront, your request is always going to the edge location which is nearby. I hope, Pankaj, this is clear. So if the customer is actually complaining of this slow speed, then you can use these edge location. And we have another part which is known as local zones. So local zones are also delivering the content closer to the user, or this is actually providing the processing of the latency sensitive information. So Nafis, the edge location region, they are connected with each other with a very high speed network. It is not the public internet. This is very high speed network, which we are calling it as a backbone network. So let me just show you. So we have 32 region launched. So you can see that the regions here are connected with very high speed network. And this network is owned by AWS. And this is known as backbone network or backbone infrastructure. So this is AWS backbone network. And how these availability zones and these multiple regions are connected to each other. These are connected to each other through this high speed, ultra low latency network. So because of this, latency is reduced, and moreover, we are using a location closer to the user. So it is reducing the latency. I hope, Nafis, this is clear. So you all can search for this global infrastructure and you'll be getting the latest number, because this number keeps on changing. So don't refer any slide, any PPT for this number. Please refer to this global infrastructure page. So we have 32 region launched, 102 availability zones. And earlier it used to be 410 plus point of presence. Now we have 550 plus edge locations and 13 regional edge cache. So you can see how much big the number is. So you have the edge locations spread everywhere closer to the user, and you can make use of it. I hope this topic is clear to everyone. Can I get a thumbs up? Thank you, Naga. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Babita, Carlene, Jiten. Now, I will be talking about second part of my content. And this part is known as compute. Thank you, Pankaj. So in compute category, we are using this EC2 and how we are launching a virtual machine and how we are using it. I will be talking about everything in this part. So I will be covering this part today. For this, first of all, you need to go to your AWS account. So those who are not knowing how to create an AWS account, what you do, you first go to AWS Management Console. So this is your account with which you can use these services. So sign into the console. And here, what you have the sign in, right? So you will be redirected to this page. So if those who have already created the account, they can just log in with their email address and password. But those who don't have an account, please complete the sign up process or the registration process from here. So you can click on this link and create an AWS account. 5 steps are there. Simple sign up process, which you follow in almost every account creation. But the points to remember that you have to provide your credit card or debit card details. And AWS will never do auto detection. It will just remind you if you have an outstanding bill. Second, please choose that you are creating the account for your personal interest. You want to explore AWS. You don't want to run your business on AWS. And third thing, select only basic support. This is the default selection. Don't change it. And complete the sign up process. After that, your account will be activated within few minutes. So when you are providing your credit card or debit card detail, AWS will deduct only 2 rupees in Indian currency, and this will be refunded to your account later. It is just to check your account activation. So this is all you need to do. I hope everyone is having the account, this free tier account. So how many of you have this free tier account? Ajit is having, Anand is having, great. So those who don't have, please watch the video of day 1 and create the account. I have explained the entire process. So let me just log into my account. So this is my account console. And here you can see that on the top right corner is my name. So this is your display name of the account. When you click on this, you have billing dashboard. When you click on this, it will show all your bill if you have any. But some of the services in your free tier account are free up to a certain limit. So you should know that limit and you should use your AWS account very wisely. Then you can see, so you will be getting your current MTD month to date balance here. So I don't have any outstanding bill. So that is what is showing none of the thing here. Next, this is your console home. And you can see near my name at the top right corner, you have North Virginia. So this is the region list. And you can select any region. But if you are only practicing, my humble request, my recommendation or suggestion is to use North Virginia. Because maximum services are working in North Virginia. Plus, the charges of each service is lesser in North Virginia as compared to other regions. So the free tier account is free for 12 months, 1 year. Some of the services are free, not all. Then you have this services. Can you see the services? So this service, when you click on the left hand side, you are getting categories of the service. So if you want to go for analytics, business application, blockchain, database, game development, so you can use various services. But today we will be exploring this compute service. So when you click on compute, You can see there are a lot of services, but I am highlighting this EC2. So when you just make this service favorite by selecting this star, by clicking on this star, your service will appear here and you can just directly go to that service. So what you do, expand this. We have the compute category, and in the compute category, we have a service which is known as EC2. Clear to everyone? Where you can locate that service in your management console, and it is coming under which category? It is coming under compute category. And in the compute category, you have this EC2 service. And if you want to directly go to your service, then in the search bar, type the name of the service and it will be there in the result and you can use it. Now what this EC2 service is? I'm just planning not to kill you by PPT because a lot of material is available on the internet, which you can refer to. PPTs, documentation, everything. I just want to make these things clear to you. I just want to explain you all these things. That is why I'm making use of my whiteboarding a lot. So the full form of this service is Elastic Compute Cloud. I hope all of you are comfortable with this whiteboarding. I'm not taking up PPT a lot. Anand, I'll be sharing it with the Logic Labs team, and from there you can access. So the full form is Elastic Compute Cloud, and what it is doing, it is actually giving you compute device. So have you heard about virtual machines? So what are virtual machines? So I'm getting a lot of yes from Venkat Kali Prasad, Venkat Eligeti. I'm getting answer from Anand, Ajit. So what are these virtual machines? So let me just explain you in the layman language. Yes, absolutely correct. These are your laptop or computers, but in this software format, in the software form. So your laptop, yes, Farhan. So your laptop is your hardware, but I can say in layman language, you can think of virtual machine as a computer, which is delivered to you in the form of software. Yes, Kali Prasad. So why we are using these software-based machines? Why we are going for this virtual machine? And how it is possible to have these virtual machines? So let me just take an example. So this is your laptop, your hardware. And suppose if it has 1 GB of RAM. I know this is very less, but it has 1 GB of RAM. And you are utilizing only 500 MB. So let me just correct it. So instead of 1 GB, suppose you have 4 GB of RAM. And now, or you have suppose 64 GB hard disk. I'm not talking about RAM, I'm talking about hard disk, for example. Now, you are using only 30 GB of it. And 34 GB is going waste. Yes, Shaiju, I will be telling you everything. Don't worry. So we are using only 30 GB and 34 GB is going waste. So is this the optimum utilization of my resource? Is this the optimum utilization of my resource? No. So what we are doing to utilize our hardware resources up to the optimum, we are actually going for virtualization. So what virtualization is? So I will just ask some of the software to just divide this hard disk for me. So now I have 4 division, and this is the logical partition. So 16 GB, 16 GB, 16 GB. So what I can do, so my 64 GB is actually divided into 4 portions of 16 GB each. Now, what I'm doing, I'm just asking one of the machine, my virtual machine, to use this part. I'm just using another operating system to use this part. I'm using another operating system to use this part. I'm using another operating system to use this part. So what I'm doing, I'm just dividing my entire pool of resources into different sections so that each section can be utilized by some different machine, by different operating system in a different way. So with this, I can actually increase the efficiency, the capability of my hardware. And this logical partition is known as virtualization. Now, earlier, only one operating system was using this 30 GB, but now I can have multiple operating systems can use these section of 16 GB each in a different way, in the way they can use. So in this way, I'm not wasting my memory. I'm just telling the you can say different operating system to utilize this section, and these sections can be utilized in different way by different operating systems. And who is doing this virtualization? We have a software layer which is known as hypervisor, the virtualization layer. So we are using hypervisor. So hypervisor is actually helping us to have the division of our hardware resources. And these hardware resources are utilized by these software-based machines, which we call these as virtual machines. So virtual machines are using the resources of the hardware. So virtual machines are running on some hardware, on some machine, on some server, and these machines are using the hardware components such as memory, right, network, and so processor. So these virtual machines are using the hardware resources of my server on which these are running. But I can increase the usage of my hardware resources by partitioning it. So it is like you have a one hall in your house, you can use it only in one way. But if you are dividing your house into rooms and into kitchen and washroom, so you can utilize each resource, each part the way you want in a different manner. So what the work you are doing in kitchen, you are not doing the same work in your bedroom, in your drawing room. So you are utilizing each section of your house differently to increase the utilization of your resource. So that is what you are doing here. And this hypervisor is actually partitioning our resources, our hardware resources, and it is actually enabling the virtual machines to use these resources. So how virtual machines are using the hardware resources? It is with the help of hypervisor. Okay, Nafis, I'll be just telling this to you. Just a moment. Now, which hypervisor AWS is using? So earlier they were using Zen hypervisor, but now they are using their own hypervisor, which is known as Nitro. Is this clear? Is this clear why we are doing this virtualization? And EC2 is providing us this virtual machine only. Now let me just go to my account to show you how this is happening in practical. So EC2 is providing us virtual machines. And I told you in layman language, virtual machine is normally a computer, a laptop, which you are getting in the form of software. So when you are going to purchase a laptop, what you tell to the dealer? Or when you search for a laptop to purchase online, what you search for? How you decide that you have to purchase this laptop or this mobile phone? Yes, Shaiju, we tell our requirement, specification, operating system. So this is what we are doing here. This is what we are doing here. So when I ask for any laptop or anything, then I tell my specification. So what is specification? So first, yes, checking the configuration. First, I tell the dealer what kind of operating system I want, whether I want to go for Linux, Mac OS, Windows, and so on. So in AWS, when we are using EC2 service to get virtual resources, to get virtual servers, we also tell our specification. So for selecting the operating system in AWS, we are selecting an image, which we call it as Amazon machine image. So when we tell the operating system to the dealer in AWS, because I want to have computer from AWS only. So how to select the operating system? I select an image. And this image is a template with which I can run my virtual machine. And it contains the details of operating system. Is first point clear to everyone? Second point, we talk about processor configuration, right? Or RAM, that how many cores I want, what generation of processor I want. Then RAM, my network performance, network speed of the device, right? So in AWS, I talk about all these things, how to select these things, how to select the processor configuration. I'm just selecting instance type. So one virtual machine in AWS is known as one instance. And when I'm selecting the instance type, I'm actually selecting this configuration. Processor means how many cores, RAM, and network performance. So if you want to have high configuration system, you can go for higher instance type, larger instance type. So the name of the instance type is looking like this. So it is like i5 core, i5, i7 of Intel or AMD Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7. So T is the family of the processor, whether it is belonging to general purpose or high configuration or accelerated computing. So T is actually mentioning the family, depending upon the performance of your processor. Then 2 is the generation. And micro is the size of your processor, that this processor has only one virtual core. This cannot do parallel tasks. So it has only one virtual core and I think 1 GB memory or 0.5. I'm not remembering exactly. So 1 GB or 0.5 GB memory it has. I think 0.5 GB memory it has, RAM. So this is our instance type, which is telling the configuration of these three things. Then when you have your laptop or your mobile phone, how to protect that, how to keep your laptop secure so that anyone is not actually using your laptop without your permission. Yes, Philip, password. And in AWS, we are connecting with our EC2 instance securely with the help of key pair. So key pair, you can think of it as a password in the encrypted form. So you have the encrypted password in the form of key pair. Then how you protect your network, how you filter the traffic coming and leaving your network. So how you are filtering your network? Yes, Philip, you have firewalls. And here firewalls to your EC2 instance is the security group. So you are actually adding rule that you want to have which kind of traffic to get accepted by your EC2 instance, which request can reach your EC2 instance or not. You can filter that out through security group. So security group is the firewall to your virtual machine. Then we talk about storage, your hard disk. So here also you have to configure storage. So when you are going to purchase a laptop, you just check these configuration. And when you are getting the virtual machine from AWS, you are actually telling these specifications, you are actually setting up this configuration, but the terminology is different. For operating system, it is AMI. For processor configuration, it is your instance type. Then for password, it is your key pair. Firewall is your security group. Then storage means your hard disk is your storage only. Are all these parts clear to everyone, the terminology? Nafis, that will be coming later on in this course, right? I don't want to rush through this content. So when you take on my classes, I will be discussing load balancer and auto scaling group later. So let us practically implement all these things. Let us see where I can see all these options in my account. So this is my account. And what I'll be doing, I'll be just writing EC2 here in the search bar and clicking on this EC2. And it is providing me the virtual servers in cloud. So this is my EC2 dashboard. And I told you one virtual machine here is known as one instance. I want to launch an instance. I want to just get a virtual machine for me. So here on this dashboard, you can see that you have an option of launch instance. So when you click, is this option visible to everyone? Is this option visible to everyone? So what you do, you just click on launch instance. And this is the form that you are filling. This is your requirement page. You are noting down you are just writing down your specification here. So name is just a tag to your machine that let me have a Linux server. So it is just a name. You can give any name, my machine, first virtual machine, my VM, my instance, etc., etc. It is just a tag to identify your resource. Then you have the first part, select the operating system, and you are selecting it through Amazon machine image. And there is a list of machine images provided to me by AWS, and I am selecting the first one, Amazon Linux. Then after selecting the operating system, second is the processor configuration, and we are selecting the instance type. And T2.micro, you can see that family is T, generation is 2. How many cores? 1 core, single core. It has 1 GB of memory. So just apologies that I mentioned 0.5 GB. It has 1 GB of RAM. So you are selecting this configuration through instance type. And I'm taking T2.micro because it is in free tier eligibility. I don't want to pay for this. That is why I selected this T2.micro. Then key pair login. It is my password. So right now I'm just proceeding without password. It is not recommended, but yes, you can have your laptop without the password set. But if you want to create this key pair, click on this, write the name of your key pair. It is encrypted using RSA algorithm. So RSA is an encryption algorithm, which is just securing your password. And you have the format .pem.ppk. It is just like you have your file extension to images, you have .png, .bmp, .jpg. So all are images, but you have different extensions. Similarly, you have .pem extension and .ppk extension. So I will be telling you about these two, where to use PEM and where to use PPK later on. And you can create your key pair. But in today's session, I will be going without key pair. Then go to network settings. You can see firewall. So this is my security group. And I'm creating the security group and I'm telling that allow SSH traffic. SSH means secure shell. If this means that you want to securely connect with your machine, you want to securely log into your machine. So if rule is there, then security group, this firewall, this is the security guard, it will allow that SSH traffic. If it is not there, this rule is not there, then your SSH request will be blocked. You cannot connect to your machine. If you want to use this server as a web server, you want to send HTTP query, then you have to allow this HTTP request through your security group. And you can ask anyone to connect with your machine, because you are telling that anywhere from using any IP address can connect to your machine and can send HTTP query. You can customize it. You can set your own IP address to restrict your security group, that only you can use your machine, not anyone else. Then storage, it is like the C drive. So you have the root volume. So like the C drive of Windows, where operating system will boot up. You can add D drive, E drive, F drive if you require more storage. But by default, you are getting 8 GB for Linux. It is the root volume, means for booting of the operating system, you require 8 GB. So let me just revise. Name, operating system through AMI, instance type, the configuration of your processor, password is your key pair, firewall is your security group, and storage, that hard disk you can think of. And after completing, you can launch the instance. And you can see agility, the one of the advantage of cloud, that you are getting resources within minutes. You don't have to wait for the resources here. And you can see that when I am clicking on this instance, right, I am getting this virtual server. And this is in the pending state, means this is in the booting state. The operating system is booting up. And within minutes, I'm getting this resource. And you can see now it is in running state. I can use my Linux machine very easily in my account. So this is provisioning of the resources. Very easily I'm getting, in no time I'm getting. That is why cloud services are really fast. I hope this hands-on is clear to everyone. This demo is clear to everyone, and you can relate with the topic that when you are purchasing the laptop, you are also choosing same steps. But here terminology is different, and you have to remember the terminology. Clear to everyone? Okay, Anand, I'll be sharing it with the team, Logic Lab team. Nafis, auto shutdown you are doing with auto scaling, right? And threshold pricing limit, there it is. We have the service known as budget. And how to give the resource back to AWS? Select the instance. So click this checkbox and you have the instance state. And you want to give the resource back, terminate your instance. It will shut down. This is the manual shutting down. Any query, any problem? Because it is time, I need to just wind up my session. Any query? So thank you all for attending my session. I hope you have understood each and everything. So see you all tomorrow. Bye, everyone.